Welcome to my hospital room. Right before I started recording, Spencer's like, I know you're trying to be really cutesy with the Christmas lights. He's like, but it might look like you're in a horror film. And so there is twinkling going on, but it's not a horror film, even though it kind of feels like one. They're Christmas lights that my husband very kindly strew up all over the ceiling. So if you see the blinking and twinkling, it's not morbid. It is. In fact, festive and Christmassy, because we're about 6 days away from Christmas. I'm in a hospital in Pennsylvania, which sucks. I think that there's lots of cons to what's happening right now, but a pro is that my water broke the first night we were back in our Pennsylvania home. And so I'm so grateful it happened that night and not one night earlier or like 3 nights earlier or 2 weeks earlier, because then who knows where we would have been. The last 6 months we have just been traveling so much for work, Spencer's work most of all, and my work, and so it's just been really hectic. And so even though everything happened at the worst time possible, I'm so grateful it happened once we were at least near our home, because even though now we're in a hospital 3 hours away from my home, at least we're in the right state. And so, hello from Pennsylvania hospital. I am now 20 weeks and 5 days pregnant with Mary Claire. This pregnancy has been a roller coaster of dramatic events. When I was pregnant with Margaret, it was like the most perfect pregnancy ever. Like I did a wedding 4 days before I gave birth to Margaret. And so all the doctors were like, it's a beautiful pregnancy. I had no complications. Everything was perfect. The birth was perfect. And after that, I was like, oh, this just must be how pregnancies go for me. And so earlier this year, we found out we were pregnant by surprise. We were not trying. We were not planning for it. We found out on Margaret's first birthday. And I was like, oh, okay. What a surprise. We were so excited. And then about 6 weeks in, I thought I was miscarrying. The doctors thought I was miscarrying. It happened at a wedding. It was very dramatic. And then I thought I was miscarried. Doctors were telling me I was in LA. And so it was really sad. We mourned it. We grieved. And then we sort of moved forward. And then 2 weeks after that, at a work event, I just had another crazy episode. And so I rushed to the emergency room thinking that I was hemorrhaging, and I wasn't. And they were like, well, you're still pregnant somehow, but now you're definitely miscarrying. And so then we came to PA for Spencer's work. And then the doctors told me in PA that I had like a subchromatic hemorrhage. There's a word for it. I always mispronounce it. It's probably because I was homeschooled and didn't get the best high school education. I always mispronounce it. But that's what they told me that I had. But like everything had kind of calmed down. I was trying to take it easy, and everything was like going back to normal. And then we got home and my water broke after taking it easy for about 6 weeks. And so it's not great. The good news is I have made it farther than most. I think they told me 9 out of 10 women. How many? What was that? 8 out of over. It was like 8 out of. They gave me an 8. Like when they said I was gonna go into labor once my water broke at the hospital, they were like 8 out of 10 women go into labor and you're already having contractions. So there's like a 1% chance that you're gonna, Mary Claire is gonna survive this. And, I was barely at 20 weeks. So the likelihood of me not losing her in the first 7 days was just really, it was not great. And so when we were just waiting on that, which was, so hard and so difficult and so challenging, the pediatric doctors would come in and tell us, what the birth would be like and how her last breath would sound, because apparently preemies, when they take their last breath, they gasp. And it's not because they're gasping for air. That's what they told us. It's not because they're gasping for air. It's because like something with their brain, it's like a reflective gasp apparently. And so when doctors are coming in and telling you that, and you're just like hearing the heartbeat, but also like losing so much blood, it is so incredibly challenging. And so the first week was just so hard. And I almost went into labor like 5 times. And then I made it through the first week. Everyone was just like, oh, she made it. And so we were transferred to a specialist hospital, and I've been on like a drug they've been trying out on pregnancies to try and delay labor. They've never tried it on a water break this early. And so the doctor's like, this may work, it may not work, but here you go. And so I just finished that, and now I'm at 21 weeks and 5 days today. And so I have had my first round of steroids this morning for Mary Claire's lungs, and now I'm about to go to sleep, and tomorrow is my second day of steroids to help kickstart her lungs. So if I do have her in the next, few days or a few weeks, her lungs will develop faster, so she has a better chance of being able to breathe when she comes out. Breathing is so important. So it's been a wild journey. Spencer has not left my side since it all happened. And so we've just been hunkered down in the hospital. Since she's 22 weeks, which is in like 30 hours, if I did go into labor, they would try and save her. If she's below 22 weeks, even by a few hours, they've told us they cannot do anything. And so we're just kind of holding our breath to get to 22 weeks. But of course, if she was born at 22 weeks, 70% of babies die if they're born that early. And so in my heart, I just am like, I have to get to 26 weeks, which means I can't leave the hospital until that happens. And so we're really hunkering down. Before I got pregnant with Margaret, like I had been to the hospital probably 10 times in my entire life. I hadn't given blood in years and years. I think the biggest medical emergency I ever had was breaking my foot. And so now to be on this side of it, checked into a hospital, getting blood drawn every day, being hooked to an IV port all the time, has been a really big adjustment for me. Because I've just been always so I'm just having anxiety of being in the hospital and needles and doctors. And so I'm so grateful that we're in such nice, wonderful hands here, because the staff is so wonderful. The hospital is so wonderful. But it's also just wow, how has this happened to me? It's been very, very wild. And it's crazy how, I was so excited to be home. We were going to, bake. We were in our fall winter home. I was like, this is going to be great. I ordered my sourdough starter. I was like, I don't have any weddings over the holidays. I'm just going to chill out and practice sourdough bread. So I got really into bread baking this year. And then the neck in 12 hours, my water broke and we rushed to the hospital, and I haven't been back since. And so even things I have here, I think that there's so much talk about, oh, packing your hospital bag, at, I don't know, maybe 37 weeks or something like that. I don't know when people do it. I packed my hospital bag for Margaret after my last wedding. So I was like, I'm not going to the hospital until this wedding's done. So that was way later than that. But I recommend anyone who is pregnant to pack an emergency bag, because you never know when you're going to have to run out the door. Ever since this has happened, I've just been if I had known this, I would have prepared better. But we've just been so hectic the last 6 months that so much of my stuff is in suitcases anyway, that it's just it's just confusing for even people to find things in it. I'm just trying to describe people, okay, my jewelry bag's in this bag, but my makeup bag is in this bag, this set of pajamas is in this bag, but this socks is in this bag, or this drawer, or this box. And people are like, wow. I'm like, I know. So learn from my mistake. If you're pregnant, pack an emergency bag now, because you never know when an emergency is going to strike. But it's just been interesting being in a hospital and kind of wrapping your brain around that I'm going to be here for a really long time, hopefully. Of course, I want to be out now, but that would not end well for Mary Claire. It's so hard to be separated from Margaret. It's heartbreaking. I really hope that she's so young she won't remember this. If she does, there's not a better reason to be away from your child than to be saving their sibling's life. But it's wildly hard to be away from her. Thankfully, she can come visit, but we are 3 hours away, and it's icing and snowing here every day. So it's really hard to get here from where she's at. And so that has been a huge, just like ache in my soul to be away from But Margaret, Spencer's having the hardest time. I'm having the hardest time. Thankfully, we usually have our hardest times at different times, so one of us can comfort the other. But it's just been incredibly challenging. I just never thought that I would be going through something like this, especially after Margaret was so healthy. So because of all this, it's made me realize that I think I've had like an outpour of messages and texts and comments, and I've been getting them, and Spencer has, and Spencer's family, and my friends and Betsy, and they've all been telling me like, so-and-so had this happen, so-and-so had this happen, but it's never really talked about. Miscarriages are never talked about, or very rarely. This kind of stuff is hardly ever talked about, even like the studying case. Like all these crazy things keep happening in my body, and the doctors are like, well, we really don't know. And I think it's because it's such a hard thing to talk about and to go through, that like no one wants to be studied. No one wants to talk about this. No one wants to grieve this because it's such a personal, hard, traumatic event to go through. And so I'm just sitting here in a hospital being poked and prodded at every hour, trying to keep busy with my work, but also just aware that maybe there's someone else out there that this could help, or talk about a subject that very few people seem to have talked about. And a lot of women get pregnant and are pregnant every year, and so I think we should talk about it more. And so here I am. I almost started a vlog channel earlier this year, during my April and May busy wedding season. I had a really, really fun wedding season this year, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's been great vlogs. So I started it. I have all this content on my phone that never got published because I was just so busy. I couldn't keep up with it. But now I'm like, well, this is my chance. It's not the content I thought I was going to be talking about. It's a lot less glamorous. It's a lot less exciting. Here I am in my pajamas. I did fill in my eyebrows for you, but there's nothing else. I have my makeup bag here, but I only have one brush to it. I have my Anastasia, my eyebrow brush from them, but that's it. The rest of my makeup brushes are in a different suitcase and no one knows where they're at. So I've done the makeup I can do, and that's about it. This is the first I've even had makeup on. My steroid shot gave me like a burst of energy, and so I enjoyed that. I did my eyebrows. There we go. Been in the hospital 2 weeks, so we have made progress, but not the content I thought I'd be talking about. But hopefully interesting content nonetheless, and hopefully someone out there can be helped too by talking about a subject that's just really, really crappy. So hello from the hospital. I'll let you follow me around this week, kind of see what's going on, see what's happening, and hopefully I'll be still here next week to do another one. So thank you for watching, and I will talk to you guys soon. Before I go, I am going to add one more little thing. The reason why I'm checked into the hospital and can't go home, because this is a question I had as soon as I was told this had to happen. I was like, wait. This is crazy. I'm not staying at a hospital for months. Is because that, one, any of the hospitals around we live, when we're living in PA and not in LA, we really enjoy peace, the quiet, not being around anyone. And so we live in a very remote area. And so none of the hospitals around us could help Mary Claire unless we made it to like 26 or 28 weeks. And so this is the youngest hospital in the state that the youngest week that they'll intervene to help them once they're born. That's the first one. We couldn't get here in time. There's an emergency. And so that's the first big reason we have to stay checked in. But the second one is because I am at risk for placental abruption, which the doctors have told me if that happened, I'd have 28 to 30 minutes to get to a hospital to get a blood transfusion, or I could possibly bleed out and die. I may not be saying that correctly, but that is what I have been told. And so also with where our home is in PA, we could not get to a quality hospital fast enough. So besides that, we're going into labor, the abruption, and getting sepsis, and getting an infection and dying for all the reasons. We had to check in, and we have been here for 2 weeks already. So in case you're wondering, that's why. There's not, I really hate hospitals. I never thought this would be happening to me, but, saying that it is a matter of life and death, it actually is this time. So here we are, checked into a hospital. Stay tuned for all the exciting things. I'm gonna put this sticky on my IV. I'm gonna shower, go to bed. So I will check in tomorrow. Hopefully nothing crazy happens, but maybe something interesting will happen. And so just follow along on the journey of surviving in hospital with McKenna and Spencer sometimes too. I am about 5 hours to 22 weeks. Last night was hard. I woke up with, weird pains in the night, weird blood in the night. Today's kind of weird too. Lots of weird pain, lots of blood. The contractions have kind of gone down, but I was not allowed to take any walks outside the high risk zone today, which really bummed me out. So I've just been kind of hunkering down. We're hopefully gonna call it an early night. We just made hot cocoa, and in about 5 hours will be 22 weeks. And if Margaret comes out, not Margaret, if Mary Claire comes out, she will be hopefully able to be saved. A good milestone, but we have a lot farther to go.